striking thing about the biblical tradition is how much importance it gives to healthy relationships. Relationships between peoples, relationships within families, relationships within ourselves, with nature, and ultimately with God. That you cannot speak about relationships with God without also underscoring these other relationships. Look at the book of Genesis. It begins with God bringing order in the midst of chaos. You look in the book of Genesis as well at relationships, complex family relationships broken by violence. And we see God's Spirit bringing healing. Joseph and his brothers. How, for example, God protects Cain after he's committed a terribly violent crime. The cry of the poor as well that you can hear at the beginning of the book of Exodus. And God tends his ear, bends to be able to hear the cry of the poor, of slaves that are oppressed by structures of sin. And how God offers his people a way of living together in harmony. We move from the Old Testament into the New Testament, and you see Jesus, who is willing to listen and to welcome people who were seen as disreputable by the political and the religious authorities of the time. Jesus, who ate with sinners, who had contact with women, and who had a capacity, this freedom in his relationships. Think of Jesus that agrees to heal the servant of the centurion. We're talking about Palestine occupied by Rome. Jesus had that freedom, which is extraordinary. Then if we look into a little later on in the gospel, we see that this person, Jesus, who lived out his convictions to their very end, is betrayed, tortured, and dies on a cross. And yet God sends his Spirit to raise Jesus, thereby saying that the option for the poor, that was Jesus. The commitments, the relationships that he sought to nourish and to espouse reflect the sensitivity, reflect the heart of God.